What's up, everyone? Happy Friday. I hope everyone's doing well today. It took me a second. I'm like, what day of the week is it?
Fun day.
It's Friday. How's everyone doing? You've got Anthony Corelli here, Nug, and Jimmy Corderas and Caroline Shved. We're ready to talk about WWE, but first we're going to let you guys join in. So I'm going to check in on you guys. Anthony, let's start with you. How are you doing?
Awesome, man. I'm loving this vacation. Is the best ever. And I'm exercising. I already got my workout in today. I'm ready. I love it.
Already?
Marco's sleep. Yeah, I don't play games.
What
Marco's
time do you
sleeping.
work out at?
8:30 to 10.
Wow.
That was my workout time. Yeah.
Good for you. And Marco's asleep?
He's napping, so when he gets up, it's go time. He's in.
There you go.
He calls it action mode. Actually says action mode. So he's
That's
pretty
so
funny.
cute.
That's awesome.
That's so cute. Nug, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Having a lot of fun here. I'm banging through some Switch games, and I'm just very lengthy ones that I haven't played. Like I got them, and I'm like, oh, I'll get to those someday. Well, now I have the time, so I'm playing through some crazy games right now. And I stood in line at the grocery store yesterday for about 45 minutes before they would let me in. I think I got everything we need, so hopefully I don't have to go back.
What board game are you playing right now? It's always one of my favorite things to see on your Instagram stories because they always look so cool.
Yeah, I got a game called Vinyl, which is all about collecting records in a record store. I got another one called Terraforming Mars, where you're all corporations trying to turn Mars into habitable, profitable places.
So cool.
I got an old one about opening a movie theater in Hollywood, and I have another one coming in. I ordered it for just me and my wife, and it's coming in the mail. It's called Far Away, and it's two of us on a spaceship crash landing and trying to do a mission, but the space organization we work for has no money.
That's so cool.
Is this a role playing game?
No, that's a board game. And
a board game? Wow.
If you're on the same tile, you can talk to each other and plan what you're supposed to do. But because your company's cheap and has no radios, as soon as you're off the same tile, you can't speak. You're not supposed to talk.
Wow, that actually sounds really cool.
It's really fun.
It's
like indie wrestling.
Sound cool.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, you're gonna need to keep us posted with that, Nug. Jimmy, how are you?
Sure.
Hanging in there. Obviously a tough week for a lot of people, but I'm trying to stay positive. I always try to be the glass half full kind of guy, and unfortunately, I don't have fun board games like that or a little guy to corral. So things are a little different for me, and I'm still trying to figure out how to hook up my Atari 2600 to my HD TV. I got like 12 games.
Are you serious? Do you have one?
You just need one little part, Jimmy, and you can order it from Amazon. I'm telling you, you can do it.
Okay, we're going to talk after the show. You
got it.
But this is legit. We have an Atari 2600. It's got the old connector, the two prong.
Yeah.
Where you
need the adapter to make it go HD.
Yes, exactly. And we got like 12 games. We've got the little stick controller thing with the red button on this. Oh my goodness.
I love it. Okay. After I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm just praying everyone stays healthy and
you actually say prayers. You actually do the whole Father, Son, the Holy deal.
I do say my prayers at night. I really do. I say prayers at night, and I say what I'm thankful for.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
I don't know. I like that. I mean, my parents are so traditional Polish too, right? So it's how we grew up. But yeah, I love that.
I'm going to change my prayers now to the Father, Son, and Holy deal.
There you go.
Oh, very nice.
Okay, so I see some. Thank you for asking. I see some comments in here or questions from Aftermath TV fans, but we'll get to those in just a second. And Aftermath fans, post in Facebook or YouTube or wherever you are. Let us know what you're thinking, and if you have any questions, let us know. But first, guys, I want to hear from you. And I don't think there's any right way to start this stream off than with talking about the death of a absolute legendary ring announcer in WWE and WWE Hall of Famer. I know that this touched a lot of hearts in WWE and is very, very personal to you guys too. So, if we could take a second to maybe just remember, the beautiful life that was lost in Finkel.
Yeah, this one hits a lot of people hard because those who have met Howard know that he was a genuinely kind human being, so helpful. He was like for me personally, when I first started in working for Jack Tunney here in 1985, the first person that I got in contact with from the Connecticut office was Howard Finkel, and
Nice.
he took the time to kind of educate me on the etiquette of pro wrestling. Like, now I was allowed to be in the backstage area. So Howard, would take me to the side and say, listen, this is how you conduct yourself backstage. You want to be careful of how you present yourself in front of the talent. He just, but
Wow.
it was him taking me. I didn't know any better. I didn't know to ask the
But you can't have
questions.
somebody better to show you the ropes like that. That's incredible.
And it meant so much. And and then I think back to little just conversations where he would call and stuff like that. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to do injustice to the Howard voice, but he would call me up, Jimmy Corderas, Howard Finkel, how are you? And then
Yeah.
and it was I, rem- I hate to ramble here, but I remember
No, go.
the big event here at CNE Stadium that summer, with the big Boulevard clock there, and it was cold that night, and Howard had a cold, and I hadn't started refereeing. I was still working for Jack, but I hadn't started refereeing yet, so I was sitting in the dugout basically the entire night, and every like half hour it'd be like, Jimmy, can you go sneak this tea out to Howard?
Oh.
Because to keep his voice going and stuff like that. So I'd be sneaking out there, and I'd be like, Howard, are you okay? Do you want a jacket? Because it was freezing for late August. But anyways, um, so many great memories. Such a great guy. I don't know what else to say. It's
Yeah.
just heartbroken.
Mm.
Well, there's two different sides to Howard. One, the on-screen performer, who is, I mean, there's iconic, and then
Yeah.
there's like, that's the definition of iconic. His
Yeah.
voice, the way he said things, every person did an impression of him.
Hmm.
Um, and it was fun when I would see people do impressions of him to him and he popped, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the first time you go to the office, the WWE, the headquarters, and you walk around, like you see, like he has his, his little area, his desk. You're like, no way, Fink has a desk here. It's so cool. But as soon as you meet him, he takes your name and it's in his
Mm.
memory
Oh,
forever. And
yeah.
he will. It's he listens when you meet someone. He'll turn to you and make eye contact and listen and process. And Jimmy said it right. Those that know, they know. His personality was so infectious. And I made a post yesterday about, because I kind of missed that time. I wasn't in the golden era, and there was one tour where Lillian couldn't make it. She was doing a record deal, I believe, and he came, and I'm like, no way! I was so giddy. I'm like, he's going to introduce me. This is crazy. And it was in a bullfighting arena in Mexico,
Yeah.
and I had a chance for him to introduce me there, and it was pretty cool. And the kind of guy that'll ask you about your family, and he'll name your kids and ask about, he met my dad at Mania, and always, how's your dad? And just, yeah, man, he's the real deal, man.
As a fan, Howard Finkel was the voice of WWE growing up for me, and then going to work some independent shows and being the ring announcer. All of us are just doing an impression of Howard Finkel.
Yeah.
There's no better announcer to emulate. He hit the right notes. He knew what to say. He made a big deal out of everybody. If you were a bad guy, he would sort of lean in a little sinister when he announced your name, so the fans
Yeah,
would know. Even if they didn't
Yeah.
know you, they'd know. Oh, Howard, this guy's dangerous. This guy's mean. Howard would
Yeah.
do certain simple things to help get the talent over. It didn't matter who you were. Howard wanted you to do well. He said a lot. Like, he was a fan of the guys, so he was always trying to make the guys as big a deal as possible. Howard, I liked when he actually got in the ring. He had a few
yes,
tuxedo matches with some people, and
Harvey Whippleman.
Whippleman, he was always involved. He was always there. The long-running joke is that Howard's employee number for WWE was 1, because he was the
yeah,
first guy that, as soon as they turned it into a company, Howard was the first guy that was hired. So
yeah.
he's going to be missed, but I know that guys like Mike Rome and Greg Hamilton, who are doing the ring announcing for Raw and SmackDown now, when they got hired, they had huge chats with Howard. They talked to him. They got tips. They asked him for advice. They considered him a mentor, and he loved it. No matter who was coming up to him, all the announcers, he had tips and tricks for everybody, and that I hope gets passed on to this next generation of announcers. I just don't know, compared to WWE when it started, if there will be one announcer that will be there for that long. That guy announced the first 30 WrestleManias, it seems. But I don't know if anyone will have that longevity just because of how the industry has changed.
Yeah, it's like a pebble in a pond, that ripple's going to go on forever. His legacy is going to live on forever in videos of him and footage of him, but also the way he affected and influenced the announcers now. So there's going to be a little piece in him forever, Before kayfabe was broken, I guess, right? Yeah, and it was official. So professional wrestling was prize fighting, and you need that one person in the middle as the symbol of being an official event. And some of the old boxing matches, and there'll be this fight is sanctioned by the New York State Athletic Committee, blah, blah, blah. And it just sounds like, wow, this is a real event. So he was huge and instrumental in protecting kayfabe.
Yeah, and anybody who has seen Howard prepare before going out there in Gorilla, psyching himself up and getting himself pumped up and ready, and hearing that music, Welcome to the Jungle, because Howard had his own entrance music. He was
That's right.
He had Welcome to the Jungle, and him just bouncing up and down in Gorilla, getting himself all pumped up and just bursting through the curtain like. So, oh man, it was infectious.
If Howard Finkel was a character in a movie, okay, I'm going to do a.
I live for these.
Yes. Now let's say in this movie, it's a movie. Let's say somebody shoots Vince.
My gosh.
80% of the way through the movie, and at the very end of the movie, the bad guy who shot Vince gets killed, and the reveal is it's Howard. He's so loyal that if anyone ever did anything bad to anybody he loved, he's going to get them. And you know that at the end of the day, you go, yeah, Howard did it.
Yeah. The definition of swerve.
You know what really sticks out for me is obviously he was, legendary within WWE, but Anthony, when you say that he looks at you in the eyes, he remembered your name, your kids' names, your parents' names, he actually listened. I feel like that's a quality these days that maybe in some people has been lost. And when you get someone, who is as successful and as legendary as he is, do that, I also think that creates a ripple effect and that becomes contagious and people learn to do the same thing, So I think he was such a trailblazer in WWE, but also as a good human being, how amazing is it to come across someone like that? I think that's the stuff for me that really resonates. When you guys talk to me about all these superstars who have unfortunately passed, or people that you have known through WWE, and you say he was a really good person, or she, that's the stuff where I'm like, man, that's what's really, really important at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Howard, like you said, Howard cared about everyone, and he wanted the best for everybody. Like when you talk about a good soul, Howard was a good soul, and again, going off on a little tangent here, if you needed any information, any historical fact about professional wrestling, you called Howard.
Amazing.
And you said, Howard, in 1963 at the old Baltimore Civic Center, the main event, what happened here? Well, this is what he incredible memory. And he, like you said, he remembered people. He met you once. He never forgot you.
I love that. I love that. All right. Well, he'll be missed. It was devastating news, I feel like, for the entire WWE universe. Yeah. Everyone was, mentioning his name on Twitter, on Instagram, in articles, but he's in a good place now. Okay, guys, there's a lot of questions in our Facebook chat about how we feel about all the releases in WWE that we saw a couple days ago. Another hard-hitting day in WWE. What are your thoughts on it?
Where do you start? Where do you start?
Yeah, well, you know what? There's two guys right here. Jimmy and I have been released, so we've been on both sides.
Mhm.
We've survived mass choppings before, and sometimes there's mass choppings just to clean up a little bit, just
Mhm.
because look, as much as this is it's a source of entertainment for everybody, it's a business, and they don't owe people anything. It's a privilege to be there and to get paid to be a performer like that. It's You're already winning. Nobody owes you anything. I don't care how hard you work, how many countries you went to, how many. I mean, look how many amazing wrestlers never even made it there.
Mm.
So,
Sure.
but I'll give you a little personal thing. The day I got the call and I had injury time that was going to be added on, and then they just let me know they're opting not to add the injury time on, effectively released, blah blah blah. And it was a good feeling, man. It was, you know why? Because the guy that worked really hard and got the job, like the guy up to that moment of getting signed, I was that guy again. And that guy was good. That guy was successful. That guy made it. That guy was hungry. And it was me. I was me again. Not that they own you in the sense that they steal your identity, but when you're on TV, my character's name was Santino. And the vast majority, millions and millions and millions and millions of people know me as that. But my name's Anthony, and that was me again. So I hope that a lot of guys can feel that way because
Mm.
it's a good feeling. Unless you hate yourself, that's a horrible. But I mean, it's good, and there's going to be a beginning and an end. Now, then there's the other factor. Are we? It's not our job anyway. But are we supposed to agree with the hierarchy, the potential of
Mhm.
people? For example, Kurt Hawkins, not so shocking. Rusev, more shocking. That kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And that's not our job to agree with the office in terms of who they cut. These are unprecedented times, and this happens during normal times. So it's completely understandable. If anybody has a problem, it's because they're fans and they can't separate their emotion with
Mhm.
accounting. This is an account.
Yeah.
This is a business. This is numbers. You got
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
stay. You got to stay
people
afloat.
out there I think people out there understand the unprecedented times because jobs are going away left and right, and companies
Everywhere.
are doing what they can to stay
Exactly.
afloat, no matter what the business is. It's the hard part right now is that when somebody gets let go, they have a 90-day no compete clause before they can go work anywhere else. But that anywhere else also isn't working right now. If
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
only thing you do is wrestling and that's the only thing you've prepared to do, if you've given no thought to your life outside of wrestling, right now you're terrified. And it's a terrible thing that's happened, but it's an understandably terrible thing. Like you understand why it happened. It's just the timing of it sucks.
Yeah.
There are a lot of guys that are going to take a long time to land on their feet. There are going to be a lot of people who don't have anything else going on other than
Yeah.
wrestling, and they never gave thought to it. They never
Mhm.
thought to plan because they think this is just what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. And it might be, but right now, no one's doing it. So
That's
what do
true.
you do when you get let go from your job and nothing's happening and you can't even get a new job, let alone for 90 days? For the foreseeable future, you won't be able to get one. It's a very strange time for everyone involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nug hit on a good point there too. It's as someone who had been from a young age involved in the wrestling business and not thinking ahead, like, okay, I have to make a game plan for the eventuality because this isn't going to last forever. But you're not thinking that at the time. I wasn't
Exit
thinking at the
strategy.
time. Yeah, I didn't have an exit strategy, and thankfully, I married an exit strategy in the sense that there's someone who settled me down and said, "Listen, here's what we need to do because this isn't going to last forever. We need to think about the future and what we're going to."
Good.
So and thank goodness there was that. So when my time came in 2009, I was. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like I'm saying like I'm like financially set for the rest of my life, but we had a plan for afterwards, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
and I was able to at least move on because due to other circumstances surrounding my release, um, I was ready, like you were, Anthony. Because if your heart is not in this, to be on the road 250 days a year, to put all your time, to leave your family for that time and do what you to take care of that other love of pro wrestling and leave your other love at home, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's tough, you know.
Yeah, there's a couple things too. So one, I had an injury that was slowly accumulating, and the wear and tear was going to reach a breaking point. So I saw it coming. I saw my
Mm-hmm.
ability to wrestle, but the end of my ability to wrestle coming. So I was able to prepare. But there's also other factors. Let's say, okay, for example, was it Zack Ryder? 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he made a lot of money for 14 years. But when there's guys that have been there for 2 years, then
Yeah.
did they have a chance to set
Yeah.
themselves up? And here's
No.
another thing too. This is an analogy I made a long time ago, and it's accurate. Um, Making money is like a metabolism. Okay, the more if you eat a lot, you're going to have a faster metabolism. If you eat very little, you have a slow metabolism. And it's the same, it's called a financial metabolism. So if you don't make a lot of money, you can't spend a lot of money. You check the labels and you spend very little. You buy a little Corolla instead of a Rolls Royce, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. But now all of a sudden you're making all this money. And if you can keep your spending metabolism low, you can save so much money. And you hear all the old timers or Kyoto was my guy. It's not how much you make, it's how much you save. Right? This guy can make $1 million. He spent $950,000. So he has $50,000 in the bank. This person makes $200,000. They spent $40,000. They have $160,000 in the bank. I'm just throwing numbers out there, obviously. But what happens is when you make all this money all of a sudden, and you're like, okay, so let's just say someone's making $20,000 a month, and you're like, man, I can buy this kind of car, I can buy this kind of house, this is my neighborhood, and if your spending metabolism speeds up, when the food stops or the money stops, you have to adjust super quickly, or you're in trouble. So it's personality. This depends on the personality type that you have. Some people, when they're in their hometown, I remember Daniel Bryan. He had a Honda Fit and that was his car, personal car. And I'm like, I love it. He's gonna be set. And then you go somewhere, and of course, I think Miz is driving a Bentley or something like that.
Of
And
course.
yeah, if they're making the same amount of money, well, Daniel Bryan's definitely saving a lot more than the Miz.
Yeah.
I think Daniel Bryan was more into saving the planet at the time as opposed to money, but it was a double edged sword for him.
Yeah, so hopefully you can not let your ego take over when you start making a lot of money and stay humble even though you're making a lot of money because that is going to save you in the end.
Yeah.
No, I feel for anyone, in WWE, outside of WWE, who's had to face a little bit of change and adversity in losing their jobs, right? Because there's a lot of people right now who are having a lot to deal with in terms of their career and jobs. So, I feel for them. I watched a Drake Maverick video that he posted right after he
Oh,
Yeah.
found out he was released. I really appreciated and respected his vulnerability in that video because not only did he let the entire world authentically feel what he was feeling, I'm sure that video resonated with so many other people and helped
Yeah.
inspire them. And I think that's the beauty of being vulnerable sometimes. And I know it's a scary thing, but he posted that, and I think within a couple of hours it had millions of views.
yeah.
And I do think that it's tough for athletes, and I consider WWE superstars tremendous athletes. It's tough when you've done something your entire life and it's immediately taken away because that's a sense of your identity, right?
Yes.
And it's a very, very scary feeling to lose that. But I also know that when things like that happen, whether it forces us to slow down or explore another opportunity or an avenue or whatever it may be, there are little silver linings that you may not see in that moment, but even if it's 5 years down the line, you'll be like, this made sense, and I just really hope and pray that people in these situations can eventually find that peace because it is a very, very hard thing to deal with. And I just think it's beautiful when people become vulnerable and help each other. And the support that was offered to these WWE superstars from their peers and their friends and their coworkers and family is also, it goes to show how many people out there really want to help and hold each other during this time. And I just kind of really want to commend Drake Maverick on that because I can't imagine how hard that must have been.
he touched on it. The hardest part is, I'm like you don't get one more day to go say bye. It's it, done. You're
Yeah.
not
Hmm.
going to work
Hmm.
next week. And I remember thinking, damn, I can't even go say bye to the boys. Like that's
Mhm.
it. And
Yeah.
for old time wrestlers, like guys that are 50s, 60s, 70s, but they wrestled 30 years ago. Just say when someone brings up, because they'll make a lot of appearances everywhere, and someone will say, "Hey, so and so says hi." He goes, "Oh man, like I was good friends with that guy 30 years ago, but we live in different ends of the country, and
Right.
if the stars don't line up, you'll never see them again." That's
Hmm.
why. That's why when there's a good wrestler, I saw Double A recently at some convention, and I haven't seen him
Cool.
for a few years, right? So it's a big
Hmm.
pop. It's always like, oh, like just, Sometimes I used to take bookings based on who else was going to be on the card.
Yeah.
Like Chavo's there, I'll go see Chavo. I
Yeah.
love Chavo.
Chavo's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, but just people like that, if it's old friends that are going to be on the card, then I'd be more inclined to take a booking.
Yeah.
Guys, look at us crush this stream 30 minutes in, and we just keep talking and talking.
I know.
We could
Yeah.
do this for hours.
You
Yeah.
totally could.
It's
Um,
amazing. The thing about the Drake Maverick thing, Drake Maverick is a very talented individual, and
Yeah,
a lot of the guys that got released are very talented individuals. And again, trying to stay positive in this thing when things get somewhat back to normal, and they will eventually. It's going
mhm,
to take time. We don't know how long it's going to be. These talented individuals will find their footing again.
I agree.
I honestly believe that. Whether some of them come back to WWE or go elsewhere, what can happen from this too is the industry as a whole, the entire sports entertainment industry can benefit from this once we get past this pandemic thing that's going
Yeah.
on.
I
So
agree.
again, it's just hang in there, guys.
Yes.
Please.
It's hard, but it's like try
Yeah.
not to lose sight of, and that's people in WWE and people in every industry, like
Hmm.
I think it's just a difficult time for many, but things like Jimmy, like you said, things will eventually have to go back to normal, so okay, guys, there's a lot of questions in the Facebook chat about Ronda
Cool.
Rousey, which
Oh.
I would love to talk about. So she said some questionable things, and I
Mhm.
think that's understating it.
Mhm.
But it caused an uproar in the WWE community, in the Twitter community. I believe she was trending #1 worldwide for quite some time. So, what are your thoughts on what she said? And do we see Ronda Rousey returning to WWE?
Ooh.
I can go.
Yeah.
Bully Ray summed it up perfectly. He said, if this is a work, good. If this is a shoot, not good. And that's it, really. If
Mhm.
she's playing along because she's coming back, then she's going to make a very serious splash because she is public enemy #1. You don't
Yeah.
say that. We know it is. We're suspending our disbelief. We don't need you to tell us. So yeah, hopefully that's what it is. She is a megastar, and if she comes back, business is going to pick up. Period.
That's the thing. She made her comments. I like I said, uh, I'm already invested in her. When she comes back, the first thing I want to see is who's going to step up to the baddest woman on the planet. And yes, the ladies' locker room in the WWE right now is not happy with Ronda Rousey, especially some of the language she used in her tirade. The F word that she threw out there that kind of didn't sit well with a lot of people, including myself. I didn't like that. But at the same time, I'm already invested and I know that somewhere down the line she will be back and I'm interested.
If I can pull back the curtain a tad here, um, anything she's saying has to be, for lack of a better term, authorized, so to speak, or else someone's going to make a call and say, "Hey, what the hell are you doing? Shut up! This is not good." So if she's not getting that call and it's being permitted, then you have to question the thought process of the entity that's permitting.
Mm.
There is a theory. It's not. It's an
Austin theory?
online trolling theory. It's called Trevor's Axiom, and it was created on South Park. But it's the theory is Trevor's Axiom is that person A says something to person B with the intent of really riling up person C. and then person C's comments back to person A rile up persons D through F, and then their comments rile up, and it's just this branch of negative hatred, fury, all done on purpose by person A. And Ronda Rousey's comments are a perfect example of Trevor's axiom.
Trevor's axiom. I love the name.
I love it too.
Especially in a time when people love to crap on anything they can.
Yeah.
I saw one today, and it was a gentleman in Germany, and someone said, you know, incredible. 14 years ago, was it 14 years ago? 13 years ago, whenever Santino debuted, blah blah blah.
13.
And he goes, he's like, awesome. This guy was a comedy gimmick that had no place in wrestling, in my opinion. And I'm just like, what was the driving force to make that come out of your mouth and put that into the world? And you can't help but feel bad for people.
Know.
And then you click on it, it's like 7 followers.
It's the negativity that drives me insane. That everybody looks for the negative in everything. Aftermath OG Kyle Edwards and I did an interview with Howard way back when, asking him what his greatest moment was, taking it back to Howard. And you'd think it would be something like WrestleMania 3 and announcing the Andre Hogan and that sort of stuff. But for him, it was 2011 at Madison Square Garden, coming back and introducing CM Punk.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
And somebody I saw online today was, that was his great moment. But then Michael Cole was instructed to bury him on commentary. I'm like, why do you have to take that great moment and turn and put a negative spin on it? I don't understand that. It drives me insane that anti-social media has to go in that direction.
It's a cultural illness, and I think I know some of it why. Because if you look at the news is criticizing somebody, right? As opposed to promoting, it's criticizing. All the political campaigns and the commercials we hear on the radio, it's criticizing the other guy, not boosting up yourself. So all of a sudden, even the talk shows, everything's just criticizing. So if I'm a young up and coming child or whatever kid, and I guess that's what we're supposed to do because it's on TV. We're supposed to criticize people, and then it just becomes a culture of criticism, and that's garbage, man.
That's why I like our show. We do wins and fails.
Yeah,
so we critique
judo class.
Yeah, and even then, we're looking for a silver lining. We're at least trying to find something.
Yeah, it's a critique. It's not tearing down. It's like
criticize your face.
Okay, just to maybe acknowledge some fans here. Bobby Martin said that he, for one, would love to see more Ronda, and Jeff said that he's Team Rousey forever. So maybe just to wrap up the Ronda, wrap up the Ronda conversation a little bit. I agree with Anthony. I think if she comes back, it's hot out of the gate. I think we're in for a ride. And that's my win every week. I'm telling you that. I won't take off my Ronda Rousey jacket. I'm gonna be Team Ronda too.
Like it or not, as great as Charlotte is, as great as all these female talents are in the WWE, nobody's a bigger star right now in the world, not just wrestling, in the world, than Ronda Rousey. And
that's right.
She will elevate that division again. Sorry to disappoint you, all you haters out there, but Ronda Rousey will elevate the women's division again.
She has her own gravitational full pull.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, maybe let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. Jimmy, you had something to say about that when we filmed Aftermath earlier this week, so maybe you can chime in a little bit.
No, I don't. I like Braun Strowman as champion. I was looking forward to see who his next challenger would be after WrestleMania. And we've talked about this before with the Bray Wyatt character. Yes, I get the connection between them two. The past, the history they had in the Wyatt family and so forth. But at the same time, we also discussed how Bray Wyatt and The Fiend are at a level right now where the title for them would be a hindrance as opposed to a help. They don't need to be chasing the WWE or Universal Championship. He's that rare character that doesn't need a title and could be just a diabolical human being terrorizing people. And it doesn't have to be for a championship. And I would have liked to have seen someone else thrust up to, and I made the suggestion, I think, earlier this week. Maybe that would have been a good place for Sheamus's return to challenge Braun and help elevate Braun again or something.
What are the two outcomes of Bray and Braun are Bray gets the title back, and we don't want to see him with the title right now, or Braun loses the title he just got. Neither situation is good for the fans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, if used properly, use them to elevate somebody, build them up, build them up, build them up, build them up, make him crush everybody, and then lose to the big babyface champion. It's been doing that for centuries. It works. It worked.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's old school thinking. That doesn't work in modern wrestling now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you got to do twisting, burning, 450 hammer Phoenix splashes to get over.
Nug,
Sorry.
any thoughts on the Mandy Otis relationship status?
I'm thrilled that it's going forward. I'm thrilled that they're having a nice time. It's very rare in wrestling that the comedy character gets the girl successfully. Usually they just eat crow and the bad guy wins, and it's great for him. But I like that this is going places, because this is more interesting than if Ziggler had won and kept dating Mandy. This is more interesting. I want to see Beauty and the Beast. It's one of the oldest stories ever told, and I will see, mind you, if anybody else calls Mandy a beast, I'm sure Otis will be upset.
I love how you brought that back again. The oldest story ever told, the circle of life, Simba.
That's right.
See how it always works.
Yeah, it's funny. I love watching her and watch, the adoration in her eyes, and she's doing a great job. She has to play the straight man or straight woman here, and just has to be legitimately. I'm into this relationship, and the more she does, and the more it grows, the more vulnerable he is. If anything ever happens, he's gonna have a heart
That's
attack.
right.
Isn't it incredible how people rail on comedy or fun in wrestling, and then when it works, it's like
The best.
magic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you think of even anybody, the Rock was extremely funny. Stone Cold was hilarious. DX was hilarious. People they backed it up, but you remember the audience laughing in unison. 20,000 people dying at someone's expense, unfortunately, and it's funny how people choose to remember things.
There's a lot of good questions coming in on YouTube and Facebook right now that I'm keeping my eye on, but I know that we touched upon this on our Aftermath earlier this week, so I think specifically Jimmy and Nug, if I remember correctly, so you guys can talk about it a little bit. From one fan, he says, I was really hoping Andrade and Vega's new faction was going to be long-term feud right away for Drew, not Seth, who yet got a title shot for being upset. And I believe, Nug, that was your rant, right?
Yeah, you should not be anywhere near the title picture if you just lost your last match on the grandest stage of them all at WrestleMania. You're not in the contendership. You just lost a huge match. If anything, Kevin Owens should be the contender and not Seth Rollins. Also, Seth, being the Messiah, has not risen to challenger status. He has been on a losing streak. He lost the tag titles and then lost to Owens. So why is he even in the picture at all? There are other more deserving people, including Andrade, including the new stable by Zelina Vega.
What were you saying, Nug? You're like, he has not risen. He has not risen.
Yeah.
It might be Easter, but he has not risen.
I agree. I want to say 90 to 95% with what Nug said, except for what you said at the end there. I get elevating the next level of superstar, but I don't think Andrade and gang are at that level to be in that spot just yet. I think they need a little more time, a little more building to that situation before they could be thrust into that spot with Drew McIntyre.
Sure, they're very new, but I'd rather see that than Seth.
Gotcha. Yeah, that I understand.
Yeah. I heard they're going to change Seth's name to Seth Carey. I think that's his real name, so he's going to be called Messiah Carey.
Oh, very nice.
Thank you.
Here's a question we'll all like answering. What do you guys think of Asuka?
Oh, like I said earlier this week, I mean, at first I don't want to say I wasn't on board. I was just questioning whether I was into this whole, when she was on commentary and just speaking in Japanese and going on these tirades and screaming and yelling in a language I didn't understand. But for me, it's just like watching our prime minister speaking French. I don't get it either. But sorry, it was just a bad Corderas joke. That's all. But now
EKJ.
Yeah, I'm not bilingual, unfortunately. So watching her continue in this manner and speaking French and speaking French. See what I did to myself right now? Speaking Japanese and cutting promos in Japanese and doing that. I'm starting to get on board because now I'm interested. I want to know what she's saying, even though I don't know. I'm now imagining, oh, she could be swearing for all we know. I mean, like we don't know what
She's actually talking. The tone that she's talking in is like Japanese gangster talk. It's really bad. It's like almost
really.
like those criminal samurai guys. It's just that was not Japanese, obviously. But I lived in Japan for a year, and I'm familiar with that tone. And it's like a slang, dirty, not like people that
Really?
aren't respected. It's a nasty gangster tone, and it's really interesting that, and she's good at it too. She has that growl in her voice and stuff.
I'm just upset she hasn't mentioned Ribera Steakhouse yet. That's about it.
She could have. Who
She will.
knows?
It's coming. Asuka is front and center, my wife's favorite wrestler. When we are watching the show, she's just like, this is fantastic. She just wants an hour of Asuka talking all about the other women in the division. There was a video online that they actually translated everything she was saying. It was just her
No
backstage,
way.
and she made comments on every woman in the division. I think it was when they were in the Elimination Chamber. She made comments about everybody in the match, and the subtitles were hilarious, especially when she got to Naomi. She made fun of Naomi for having green hair. Meanwhile, Asuka's hair is about 6 different colors. It's a riot.
Yeah.
She is.
I wonder if those were
so
legit
much fun.
translations.
Interesting.
Apparently they were.
Oh, that's funny.
Now I'm going to have to go look for it.
I think Asuka's incredible too, and I think it says a lot about her that she's people's favorites in a time where there's no audience in the arenas. She's still able to deliver, her dance moves, the crazy things she says, everything she does in the ring. She's like next level right now. I think that speaks a lot to her character and her talent. And I agree with your wife now. When she comes out on TV, I'm like, okay, Asuka's out. So now it's like a little bit of flair and fire and excitement. And the fact, the Money in the Bank qualifiers, we can talk a little bit about that too, because I know we're all a big fan about that tournament and the style of it. But I hope that she wins Money in the Bank. I would love for that to happen.
Me too.
Yeah.
And going back to Nug's wife talking about Asuka, the other thing she does too, especially in this era with the empty arenas and there's not that crowd noise that kind of background noise that we were used to, Asuka fills up that sound a lot just in the middle of a match by making a lot of noise for herself. Yes, exactly. And it's a nice change from just hearing in between all these moves and stuff.
And then technically she's incredible. I mean, her kicks.
Yeah.
I think I mean, it's her or Aleister Black that is the best striker in the WWE. And then you throw in the grappling. She is a technical machine. If you know what you're looking for, so let's say you're like a guy who doesn't like wrestling, but you love MMA and you're changing the channel and you see Asuka, you're going to stop and say, she is a legit grappler. She's amazing. Just ask her.
I honestly didn't say anything because I was waiting for you to say that.
We knew it was coming.
Anthony, there's a fan on here who was saying that he was going to tell you he loves your hair, but then he realized it was the plant behind you.
Wait, hold
on.
So
everybody thought you had bedhead.
Yeah, or like dreads popping out.
That's what I got to do.
Oh yeah, Jimmy, put a plant back there.
Or on here. Just plop it on.
That's the real thing right there.
There you go.
Okay, guys, now that Rusev is gone, how do you think Lana... I know, saddest Rusev day I've ever seen. Yeah. Now that Rusev is gone, how do you think the Lana Lashley story plays out?
Wait, isn't Lana gone?
No.
Apparently not.
Trouble in paradise with Lana and Lashley. I think Lashley hinted that he might need to find a new wife. And it really hasn't been that long since this our long national nightmare ended. But I can see, based on what we can only go with what we've seen based on the evidence that's been presented. There's certainly an opportunity for Lana to find somebody new.
Yeah,
that's an interesting situation. I didn't realize. I thought both were gone.
Nope. And we're finding out what happens when Lana is self-isolating with another human being. Obviously, Bobby Lashley's feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, at least with Rusev out of the way, their relationship can just, flourish, maybe.
No.
But listen, like we talked about earlier, with this, when this thing all clears up and we get somewhat back to normal, and we start to see returning superstars, who's to say that maybe Rusev is at the maybe forefront of that list.
Yeah, there were a lot of superstars. I was going to mention that earlier, that when they did give them their little pause or hiatus or release, whatever you want to call it, that they did say when things pick up, you're coming back,
Yep. Yeah,
like
and
specifically.
yeah, and I did reach out to a few people who are not seen on television. They're not on air personalities who are also feeling this as well. So it's not just the on air talent. This thing is hitting a lot of people and a lot of
And
families.
Absolutely.
a lot of the talent weren't being brought out to TVs.
Yes.
So and those guys got to know it's time to save. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well,
And
let me throw it out there. Epico and Primo, who we haven't
yes,
seen
those
for
guys.
how
That's
long?
what I'm talking about.
Two great guys, two great talents that hadn't been, whether you want to say underutilized, but they haven't been utilized. And
They
you
have been
know,
preparing. I know.
but
I've been talking with them, and they've been
yeah,
preparing for life
yeah,
after wrestling.
exactly. So
Here's a good question for you guys. And Nug, I'm also interested to hear what you have to say because of your theater background. Uh, Raymond asks, do you think not having any fans is helping the superstars get all of their promos over without being interrupted by the fans? I was listening to Charlotte Flair the other night, and I thought she delivered a great promo. But it's so interesting, this question, because as she was delivering the promo, I was like, is this harder for them to do, or does it now become easier without an arena full of fans? And I couldn't quite decide what I think I would appreciate more. But now I'm going to turn that question over to you guys.
It's I'm loving it because you can you know you're going to go out there and you know you're going to say something, but that live audience can derail your train of thought, can take you off your game. If you know what you're going to say and you practice, like you psych yourself up and you say it a few times, then you get out there and something throws you off, you're gone. You don't know where you are. You don't know what you want to say. You sort of garble it. You mess it up. You don't get your thoughts clearly stated. Without people in the audience, I know what I'm saying. I'm confident I can deliver this right down the barrel of the camera, right to everybody at home, and let them know how I'm thinking without being distracted at all. I think it's a very effective way for people not only to get their point across, but also to get a couple kicks at the can, in live comedy or theater. The rehearsal, practice. You do 10,000 hours of something, you'll be an expert. Here's a ton of time for you to get way better at this. And then when people come back, you will not be distracted by them no matter what.
interesting.
Such
I
a good
like that
point.
analogy. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, very, very good points. I mean, like
Yeah.
there, obviously, sometimes a promo feeds off the energy. Like you take someone like The Rock, for example, or Stone Cold Steve Austin, that feeds off that energy. The what and all that stuff. But at the same time, uh, it's a different generation of fans, at least a certain segment of that generation, who, for lack of a better term, take these opportunities to try to, I hate to put it this way, get themselves over
Yeah.
at the
Well,
expense
it's
of the
funny
talent. So,
when I'm training people to cut promos. Sometimes what we'll do is we will cut promos, and we'll have the rest of the students that are being the fans and make them make comments to try and derail them. That's a skill you have to develop. The ability to have someone distracting you but not being distracted. And there's different. So some of the best promos in history are cut in people's cars or in the showers or in the
Yeah.
mirror.
the
And
drive-through.
the drive.
If
We
you're
had
if
one
you're
student.
JBL at a Whataburger, it's a hell of a promo. Anyway,
When you're on hold, the best promos happen when you're on hold.
Yeah,
yeah,
well, when they come
yeah.
back, I'm going to say this. I've had students that just froze up in front of the class, and then they send me something on video that they did at home, and I'm like, "Where's that guy?" But there's like a bell curve. So let's say you're cutting a promo in front of 20 people. I think that's the hardest. 2,000 people, the audience somewhat becomes a collective. They become one. And I think it's easier. Then there's to a live audience and to a camera. So there's a
Mhm.
whole bunch of different things here. So here and also at the Performance Center, they have a room, and I can't remember the numbers, but I was told that new talent has to go in this room with just a keyboard, a camera, and they got to do throughout the week, let's say it's 10 promos a week.
Yeah.
And when they press send, they're automatically sent somewhere and they're reviewed. So that's an empty room. So they're being trained to be able to do that in front of an empty room and get the emotion out and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And then when there's people, it's a different story. But
Yeah.
yeah, 70,000 people, you're really that are so far apart, you're really just talking to a camera.
You know what
And the
I
audience becomes one sound.
You know what I also think is cool? It's like you take someone like Becky Lynch, for example, and when she's delivering the promos now, she leaves room for, like, if there was an audience, you would be able to hear their reaction. Like, she gives that pause in between what she's saying for us at home to digest it. And in my mind, I can hear people booing or cheering. And I think Becky, like, I love listening to Becky Lynch on the mic, because I think she's, as much as I don't like her being women's champ, I think she's awesome. And I think that it's a really cool skill set that we're seeing right now. That WWE superstars have on the mic to deliver these promos and let us digest it from home without them actually experiencing the audience's reaction.
I think you're absolutely right. And the guy from the guy's perspective, the guy that's doing it right, for lack of a better term, is Drew McIntyre, because Drew McIntyre is, like, focused on that camera. He's bringing you in, like Nug said earlier. He's making the people at home feel like they're there with him, and that's a definite skill.
It's a weird place to be, because wrestling is designed to be in an arena with a bunch of people, and that guy in the back row has to know if you're upset, if you're angry, if you're frustrated. You have to perform for that person. Yeah. But then on television, they're right here.
Yeah.
So it's a very different thing. But to do both at the same time is difficult. At least right now, you've got the chance to concentrate on the camera, concentrate on getting the point out to the people at home. And then when the crowds come back, they'll get better at letting them into that part of the promo.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was pretty easily identifiable when they must have had a promo class or something that they encouraged people to give pauses for the audience.
Yes.
So
you can really tell.
You can tell. Yeah. So they and a few people came. The Rock did it naturally, but he grabs the mic and does this and pauses and gives them a chance to talk. He does this again and pauses and gives them a chance to cheer. So it works for him and doesn't necessarily work for everybody. But a lot of guys and girls, they'll get the mic, they'll bring it in, and then they'll go, okay, yeah, go ahead. Let me hear you. Let me hear you. And it's you can't make everybody do it all of a sudden. It loses its impact if everyone does it. Less is more, baby.
Always. That's our theme on Aftermath TV. Guys, before we sign off, I want to acknowledge some Aftermath fans in here. We got Bobby saying he loves him some Aftermath, always has. We got Jeff saying he finally got his Aftermath fix. We got Sebastian saying it's pretty cool to hear from you guys. Miss you all. We miss you, Aftermath TV fans. Yeah. It's just as awesome for us to get on here, talk about this, and if anything, now be able to interact with you guys live. Like, I think it's so cool.
This is it feels so cool to be able to do this, and hopefully even when we get back on TV like normal, we could still continue to do this as well,
Yeah, I'd like that. Sometimes we have to wait a week or two for the questions to roll in on Twitter. Doing this, getting it instantly is really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why I put cologne on every week, though. You can't smell me.
I can smell you from here.
No.
Oh, geez.
That means there's too much cologne.
Tone it down a little, bro. Tone down the brute a little.
Smell-o-vision.
All right, guys, this was awesome. I'm sure we'll do it again next Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Aftermath TV fans, put it in your calendar. Tell your friends. We're going to be here talking everything that happens in the week that was. But Jimmy, Anthony Corelli, Nug, myself, thank you guys for tuning in. And we'll see you next week. Stay healthy. Stay safe, everyone. Enjoy yourselves.
Stay home and wash your hands, gang.
Yeah.
Stay in the goddamn
Rest
house.
in peace, Pink.
Yes. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.